I'm Ariana Grande.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Erivo.
And you're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Visit bpn.fm to discover more.
There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. She's done cats a few times regionally, but was first a swing in Jellylorum on the U.S. National Tour 5 of Cats. So welcome, Lucy Horton, and thank you for joining me. I'm excited to have you because I love regional theater experiences of cats because they're usually pretty wild, to be honest. So we will get there, and we will get to your experience on tour, on the 5th tour, I think is the number that they call it. That went on for a long time, but I always got to start in the beginning because you did the musical in 2009, I believe, the first time. So you probably had that era of having the 1998 movie, but what was your first introduction to Cats?
My first introduction to Cats was when I booked the tour. I had never seen the movie. I had never seen the show. I grew up in Connecticut, about an hour outside of New York. So we had, all the Now and Forever commercials, the commercials for the Winter Garden, for Cats at the Winter Garden and all of those things. So I, knew it was an hour away in New York, but we never went. I didn't grow up dancing, so it was never kind of on my radar. And I
so
knew
you knew it, but you had no idea. You just knew it exists.
There, at least when I was in, high school and into college, there's a subset of folks that, laugh at the mega musical, and Cats being the first mega musical, it's kind of, rife for a little bit of ribbing. So yeah, it never really crossed my radar until I booked it. And then I remember like the day after I booked the tour and I sat down and watched the movie, and I literally thought to myself, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah. So I guess I always am interested to hear your experience in the audition of that, because if you're not familiar with it, I'm sure you're auditioning for everything at the time, right? You're going through a lot of auditions. How much research do you do about a show when you're going into it? It's like, did you look into a lot of Cats, or was it just, this is one of the list of auditions I'm going to go to, and then you look in once you book it?
These days I do a lot more research. Back then I was, I was young. I was fresh on the scene. I was like, let's just show up to this, see what happens. So I went it was a singer call, I believe, first. And then they had me come back to dance. And I did my best. Again, did not grow up doing ballet, did not grow up doing a whole load of dance, a little bit here and there, not a lot. And wrote it off. And then it was funny because I kind of wrote it off and booked another show, and then I got a call while I was going up to do this other show. It was right after I graduated college, and I got an offer for the tour, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't. I booked another job. And so turned it down. And that was, they offered me Jellylorum for the 2008 tour. And then I got another call in maybe February of that year saying, hey, we have an opening again for Jellylorum. Do you want to come out and join us? And I said, I just booked another show. I can't. So it was twice I had to turn it down the same year. And then they came back to me one more time and said, hey, we don't have Jellylorum, but we have the vocal swing who covers Jellylorum and Grizabella and Jenny Andy Dots. Would you be interested? And I said, yeah, sure. Let's go on the road.
So what's the time period between, I know you said it was maybe 6 months-ish from the first to the second. Or was it the next group that was going out?
Yeah. So the first two times was the year. The way that it worked at the time was, it was almost like the tour's kind of continual with a bit of a summer break. So it was basically almost like an academic school year calendar, which was very strange, but it worked out pretty well. So it was the sort of August, September time of 2008 is when they initially asked me to do it. They called me back again in February to have me go out in April, which I also couldn't do. And then they called me again in, I think it was maybe July to go out again that fall. And because so many folks had said yes to going back to a second year from the 2008 year, there were maybe only 12 of us that were new. So our actual introduction to the whole process was was a little bit different than I think a lot of other folks' experiences were. It was 12 of us in a room with the associate choreographer, Suzanne Viverito. And we were kind of given, it was a bunch of swings that were new. And so we were each given like one cat to focus on. And then about 2 weeks later, they had the rest of the company come and join us to put the rest of us in, which was different from other tour experiences that I have had since, but I guess not super dissimilar to being put into a show, but it was from a whole rehearsal standpoint.
Yeah. So who were you focused on?
I was focused on Jelly at first. And then when everybody came back, sitting on the sidelines, taking notes on everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. I want to go back. You said you had this, like, what did I get myself into moment. Walk me through that. Like, you're watching it now. You're watching this 1998 movie, and all you know is Now and Forever commercial. What was your experience at
first
view?
view of watching the 98 VHS, which I think I had I rented it on Netflix, got the DVD mailed to me or something. And back in the old days. And I sat down and watched it, and I think it was in that probably the first 10 or 15 minutes, seeing, the breakout of all these cats doing the same choreography and waves and in the opening number, and then doing the naming of cats, and they're all whispering in this really creepy way and going all over the place. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I have to learn 3 of them. Where do I start?
Yeah.
How do I do? Oh my God. I was like, it was this whole feeling of what did I sign myself up for? How did they choose me? And what do I do if I can't do it? So some of that is the general, the general fear of going into a new project. But for me, being relatively fresh out of school and feeling very fish out of water, it was daunting, but I said, I'll do it. We'll figure it out. And I'm really glad that it would have been really easy to be like, you know what? No, I'm out. But I'm really glad that I didn't, because it really did change my life and the course of my career. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a moment? I'm projecting my own moment onto you. I want to know if you had the same experience, but there is the moment of you're watching this from the eyes of, I'm about to go do this. I got to see, I'm a singer who's dancing. Can I physically do this and handle this and learn 3 of them? But there's also this moment of what is this story? And that was kind of where I had so I'm wondering, as you're watching it, that first view, you're trying to see probably way more detail than the average viewer, because you're picking up what you're about to go do. But how much of the story did you even attempt to figure out?
From what I remember, it was definitely a case of okay, here are all these vignettes that are leading up to an overarching kind of reveal, which I think is, not necessarily a bad way to look at it from a first view. Obviously, then doing it for so long and kind of layering on all of the other elements. But even the 3rd or 4th and even the 5th time that I did the show, there was a whole bunch of new information that's I've never known that in the, 700 performances I've done of the show. It's I never knew that information. Yeah. So there's still always stuff that, can be kind of mined and learned. And there's so much freedom and openness to kind of play with all of that. But yeah, the overarching with little, it's the overarching umbrella of this magical night that somebody gets to go somewhere, and the little vignettes of who's it going to be. I think that definitely came across. But I was so razor focused on can I physically do this?
Yeah. Yeah. You're watching the
I did not. I was not looking at the forest for the trees. I was looking at the trees.
Yeah. Makes sense. So then let's talk a little bit about that first rehearsal process where you get in the cat's Bible, they're handing it to you, or at least they're probably telling, if you said 12 of you, some variation of the story. Did you have an aha moment of wow, I did not expect this. I didn't remember that. What were the things that really surprised you about the story when you learned it?
I think what surprised me, focusing on Jellylorum at first, focusing on it from the sort of mothering, sheltering, protective, warm kind of focus. I think that really helped in terms of understanding where everyone else's worldview of within the show kind of comes from. Because as Jelly, you are watching everybody. You're hoping, you're wanting everything to go the way it's supposed to, reacting to all the interruptions, but also focusing so much on the younger generation coming up, on all the kittens, and seeing how they're kind of tapped into the importance. That was something that was really striking from the beginning, from focusing in that space. That I thought was that definitely carried with me through all of it.
Interesting. That's such a wholesome and nice answer. I'm always like, I didn't know that Demeter was abused by McCavity, later, all these other things. And you're just like, oh, the motherly aspect of taking care of the kittens. I'm like, all right, that is okay. I want to hear a little bit. I'd love to hear some fun tour stories because I know that that's on the road. Because then I want to get to your regional experience after. So let's hear some of the U.S. tour stories. What do you remember? What stands out as like funny moments or just things you're never going to forget?
There's a couple. So we were the year that in 2009, 2010 tour, we were branded as the Tour of the Americas because we spent a little time in Canada, but we also were in Central and South America. So a Mexican production company basically bought the tour for 6 weeks. And so we were... we were in Central South America for 6 weeks. So we were in Caracas, Venezuela. We were in Bogota, Colombia, Medellin, Colombia, Panama City, Panama, and San Jose, Costa Rica. And that was wild. All of that whole time in South America was wild. Especially like Venezuela really surprised me. I mean, I don't think you can really go anymore, which is pretty, sad, but even then in 2009, so that's 15 years ago, there were echoes of what is happening there now were already well in place. So like we weren't allowed to leave the hotel by ourselves, except to go to the mall that was like attached to it. And all the prices in the mall were insane. Like there was like a Wendy's in the food court and it would cost you $30 to get a meal.
Wow.
Things like that.
And this was the same... You did your English version of it, like there was no adjustments.
They did have Spanish super titles. So just like an opera where they have the super titles projected, they had those for the Spanish-speaking audiences.
Because I know they did in, I think 2018 or 19, they did a tour in Mexico and somewhere in Central America, and they did it in Spanish. Like it was translated in different... I think Cats has
been translated into like 25 or 30 languages over the years.
Oh, yeah, tons.
But so we had, thankfully we didn't have to learn Spanish because I do not speak Spanish. But it was super titled for the whole time we were down there. So when I was the vocal swing, I covered Jellylorum, I covered Janny Andy Dots, and I covered Grizabella. And in Caracas, we were playing this beautiful opera house, and I was going on for Grizabella, which was scheduled. We had a pretty crazy schedule. We had a couple 3 show days. It was wild. So they were cycled out as many people as they could. So everybody was on for 2 shows. So I was on for Grizabella. It was, I think, the 2nd out of 3 shows. And so we had a really quick meal break turnaround. And the way that the pod at the end of the show worked on our tour, it was basically it was like a half circle, like a semicircle of the kind of the junk at the front, and then the back was flat and open, and it was basically a bicycle seat. Like you would get onto the pod from the tire, they would connect, you would sit on the bicycle seat, you would put your hand through you see Silks or Spanish Web acrobats, and there's like a hand thing that you grab onto, like a safety hand. The stage manager would see you grab that, and then they would cue you to fly out. And there was a phone, so you could pick up and talk to the stage manager and check in. But you were back open to nothing. Like you were open. You were sitting on a bicycle seat with your hand around a thing, and that was it. It was the only safety. There's no harness. You didn't clip in. Nothing.
Wow.
Up in the fly. In this theater, it was probably maybe 35 feet off the ground, and the automation went down. So normally what happens is they all sing the finale, and then in the beginning of bows, the pod comes all the way down to the floor. You step out, you leave stage, everybody bows, you get your bow. Done. The automation failed. So the pod did not come down. So I was 40 feet up in the rafters, watching everybody bow underneath me, everybody looking up, seeing that I wasn't there, figuring out on the fly how to like cover the 2/8 of me not bowing, and then finishing the show. And I was on the phone with the stage manager, and she said, we have to get the cherry picker out to come and get you, but we have to wait until the house is clear, until everybody leaves, all 2,000 people or however many were in the audience. So I sat up there for, I want to say it was like 15, maybe 20 minutes on a bicycle seat in full Grizabella with the heels and the coat and the long tail, with nothing behind me, open, I could have swan dove back onto the stage. It would have been bad. But yeah, that was something. That was definitely a memorable experience.
Yeah. I mean, those things happen. I think it seems way more common, or maybe it's not common, but when you do hundreds of performances, you're going to have one that happens and you always remember it. But the amount of Grizabellas that have been stuck on that tire that I've heard over the years, it's like it has to be part of the show. There are definitely
fail-safes. There were fail-safes for if the pod didn't come down. There were fail-safes where if there were theaters where the pod wouldn't fit, we cut the pod. Or if we cut the tire moving, like there were contingencies for pretty much everything. Even like in the beginning of the show, if all the cats are on the tire in the opening, and a boot is supposed to drop from the fly.
Yeah. Yep.
Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes the mechanism fails. And so there's a contingency for that. You look to the conductor, he makes everybody leave the stage, they reset it, and then we do, and that's what you do. So literally you basically restart the show because you're in, 5 minutes into the show. So thankfully there are all of those safety protocols that are through 30, how many years ago? 30, 40, a lot of years. It's been 40 years.
Over 40,
it has been
over 40 now.
Because so much of it is so standardized, even in terms of naming the musical phrases, that all of those sort of protocols have been, are all well-worn paths.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like I kind of joked the first time I heard, it's like, oh, the tire doesn't go up. It's like, well, Grizabella just like walks to the heaviside layer then, instead of flies. And I think that's what makes theater great, is that you are getting a different experience every show. And ideally it's not something breaks, but that's part of it, is that you're seeing live. Like, it doesn't always go perfect. It's going to always be slightly different. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. I want to hear about the regional experiences now. So you finished the tour, and I think you did it 4 times after. So walk me through them and like how long those were, when they were, what those experiences were like, because it is different, right? Doing a much shorter run than this tour where you're going city to city.
So all 4 times that I did the show regionally was actually all 5 times that I've done the show total was with the same 2 directors. Was with Richard Stafford, who set the tour, and then I did 2 regional productions with him, and Jacob Brent, who directed me 3 times. All original choreography. And the first time that I did the show not on tour was with Jacob, and it was with a theater that is no longer around. So I went in, auditioned for him. He saw it on my resume. We had a nice little chit chat in the room, and then I got a call like a week later. So doing the show with him after, I think it was.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how long between the tour?
I think it was about a year.
Okay,
yeah, it was about it was 2000. Yeah, it was about a year. And there were a bunch of folks who did that production with us that had just finished that year's tour. So there were a lot of Cats alums because it was such a short process. It was, a standard regional rehearsal process is like 2.5, maybe 3 weeks if you're lucky. This was probably a 2-week process to do full original choreography.
Yeah. For how long though? So you do 2 weeks of rehearsing,
maybe
and then is it
4 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Short. And so did the show with Jacob, and then that was in the fall of 2011. In the summer of 2013, so it was about a year and a half later, I did the show with Richard and then with Jacob. So it was 2 different productions, original choreography. One was at Theater by the Sea with Richard. And then again, 2.5 weeks of rehearsal, about 4 weeks of shows. And then went up to Merry-Go-Round Playhouse, which is now called the Rev, up near Syracuse, with Jacob. Again, 2-ish weeks of rehearsal, 4-ish, maybe 5-ish week of shows. And then, oh no, I missed one. The other one was Gateway. Yeah, that was 2012. It was May of 2012. So that was about another 5-week process total. And that was with Jacob. Yeah.
So these are all Jellylorum, and I think some
yes, they were all Jellylorum with Grizz Understudy. Yeah.
So there's, when you're doing this and you're with the same directors, you're with Jacob, amazing guests we had on, and one of the biggest wealth of knowledge on cats I've ever met. How much of this is that it's like it pops up and you see it and you audition, or is it hey, we're about to go do this, and Richard or Jacob are calling you saying, I need a Jellylorum, you know it. Let's kind of audition for me, but it's kind of like asking you to at least be considered in the process.
I've been really, really fortunate in that once I had worked with Richard and once I had worked with Jacob, they basically asked me to do it. Really fortunate to, be able to have that kind of relationship with both of them. They're both wonderful directors and wonderful people. And and that was just a really lovely to be thought of in that way and have your name brought up in those rooms kind of thing.
I've always wondered this because, again, I'm not a performer. I've done one thing in my entire life, and I was like 5. Is that are there shows for you that you have done and it's like, I never want to do that again. And you don't have to call them out. And then there are other ones where it's like, you know what? If I see a Jellylorum posting, I'm putting my name in the audition because how does that work? Or is it much more of like, hey, Jacob and Richard, they've got their, 5 or 6, not like individual, but people that they know that could do this, and they kind of go and encourage and find some new talent and all this stuff. But as a performer, like, if you saw a casting for tomorrow for Jellylorum, imagine this was, in the thick of things of doing that, would you immediately be like, I'm ready? Like, I'm going for that audition right away.
Yeah, for sure. Cats is one of those shows that really gets under your skin when you do it. Mm-hmm. With my background or very little background before doing the show, I always personally found it a lot more fun to do than it was to watch. But that's just me not growing up in the dance world.
Yeah. A lot of people say that.
And there's something to do, I think, with the level of freedom and play that you have that it really, it gets under your skin and it's really hard to walk away from. So I think it was very exciting to continually have the opportunity to play in that way. That doesn't happen a lot in this business. There's not a lot of shows in which you have that much license every day that also has such a rich history. Like it's a very rare thing, and it's a very exciting thing. And I think that contributes a lot to, the way that people talk about the Cats family. It gets under your skin, and it's really hard to say goodbye to it.
Yeah. So this has been a show that's like that. Has there been any in the reverse where it's like, I did this one time, and if I saw an audition, I'm not even put my name in?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. Probably, yes.
I'm not curious what the show is. I'm just more curious, like, in the idea of it. Like, is it like, hey, I just wouldn't want to do that again. And you don't have to say what show. I'm curious of, like, is that a thought process, or is it this is work? And, if they offered me the job, I'd probably consider
it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I mean, I think some of those things is you do the mental math of, is this process for this potential project worth what I would get out of it? I think that's the consistent mental math you do in this business all the time. Whether it's you're doing it for the health weeks for the union, or you're doing it for the pay, or you're doing it to work with somebody specifically, or you're doing it to work at a theater specifically. It's a whole bunch of mental math you have to do every time you walk in the room.
For sure. Okay, I want to go back to the regional experiences. You're doing a 2-week rehearsal, or maybe 3 at most, versus your much longer process for the tour. How deep does a Jacob and a Richard go into the story in those different productions? Obviously you said there's a lot of alum, so most of you know it and have a pretty good idea, but there's definitely not all alum. There's going to be some where this is the first time they've ever done it. So how much do you get into that in rehearsal of a regional production versus the tour?
From my experiences working with Richard and Jacob, they do as much world building as time allows. By that, I mean, the first week of rehearsal, you'll take maybe the first hour to do, cat work, as it were. We used to call it felinity.
Yeah.
Like you are in you're reacting to stimulus of somebody throwing a water bottle and you're all reacting, or solidifying those relationships, or sitting in a circle and talking, or I know you were speaking with Jacob about the 3 words that he likes to give everybody for their specific characters, and about kind of internalizing that for what that means for you, and using those things. So I'd say, and with Richard, it was very much like he would lead a group warm-up for everybody every day, like a physical dance warm-up. And then we would start to work in some of those felinity ways. You do what you can with the time that you have, because there's still so much material that goes through. And of course, every director has their little bits that they like to do differently, or set differently, or constraints of the space is always a big thing. Or if the set is different from, it's not the oven and the tire and the plank. It's the back of a bus, or it's some other concept that the scenic designer had that you're now adjusting what you're used to versus what the constraints are around you. So that was those have all been fascinating and challenging. But the core of it, the core work that you do to tell the story is paramount. Is paramount. It's important, and it's every time that I've done it has been treated with a lot of care and respect.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Do you remember the 3 words? I think
my 3 words
for Jelly.
It's been a long time. I want to say my 3 words were something along the lines of like protector, mother, and caregiver, or something along those lines.
So this is just what's on the Cat's Wikipedia page. So I'm not sure if it's perfectly accurate, but it has practical, busy, and cheery.
Okay.
For Jellylorum.
I don't know if I ever necessarily got those ones specifically. Maybe, and it's been, maybe my brain has blocked them.
To be fair, I'm not even sure that these are right. This is just what the one website is, and it's based on one piece of paper that someone has. So it's like, it could have been this production, or who knows. I want to ask a little bit. Can you tell me more about Grizabella?
Grizabella is Gus's fantasy life. The Growl Tiger Grizabella opera, which isn't in the movie. It's not even really in the show anymore. It's gone. It's gone from, I think it's even gone from like the cruise ship.
Oh, definitely. Cruise ship cut out. Cruise ship's down to 90 minutes now. So it's a no intermission 90-minute. Yeah, so that was definitely cut.
It's his fantasy. It's his reliving his experiences in his last hurrah. And because Gus has this close relationship with Jelly, and Jelly really does, take care of him, make sure that he eats, make sure he's been grooming himself, like those. She's his caretaker. She loves him in the way that caretakers love the people they take care of. That he has kind of projected. This is the way that I've always thought of it. That he's always projected his moments of glory and is inserting the people from his current sphere into his memories. So Grizabella is Growl Tiger Grizabella was, his tour de force when he was a young spry cat. He's probably had so many cats that he played Growl Tiger and Grizabella with. At the moment, it's Jelly, because that's who he's with all the time, and that's who he loves as his caretaker. And so it's easy just to be like, oh, I'm going to plug in this face that I see all the time. That's kind of where it lands for me, because she is so opposite to Jelly, and it is, this kind of comic operatic turn, and from this place of real, from the song of Gus, it's such a tender, real, simple, straightforward, loving moment that you don't get anywhere else in the show. That to have the juxtaposition of this grand, over-the-top memory play that shows how far Gus has come and how much he's lost, that I think is the biggest case for him to be chosen.
It's such an interesting piece because it's not been in the version I've seen besides the 1998 movie. And there's not a lot like written on it because it's like, it is this little scene within a scene. But then it's listed as like, you played Griddlebone too. And so it's always kind of like this weird one of, do you get a lot of information on Griddlebone, or is it just like, no, you're Jellylorum and now you're acting in this little scene?
Pretty much, yeah. It's this comic opera off to the side as part of Gus's fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do some rapid fire. Let's get to the important question here at the end. So if you could go on tomorrow, male, female, any cat, it doesn't matter whether you could do it or not, who would you want to do one night as?
Bomb. Oh God, I love Bomb Ballerina. She is so sexy and fun. I've always wanted to play Bomb. Oh,
it's
God,
such a great song.
So good.
McCavity is so
and
fun.
Just all of her, chasing after Tugger and fawning over him, and then still getting her power back from him at the end. Like it's just so fun, just to be that sort of sexy bombshell. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Who are your favorite and least favorite characters? So which cats do you love? Which one kind of bug you?
I think least favorite is, I'm probably going to say Tumblebirdus, because just from a perspective of Jellylorum, he's the biggest pain in her butt. It's like, oh, this kid again. It's definitely that kind of energy. Favorite is probably, I would say, Old Dude or Syllabub. Syllabub has this beautiful channeling energy of simplicity and honesty and openness and youth, and it's because of Old Dude that she is this conduit. So I think those are two together that I think are
Okay. Favorite song in the show?
I will say I still wake up sometimes with Skimbleshank stuck in my head. And it's been 10 years since the last the show.
Who does
so
it?
probably
Who
Skimbleshank.
does it? Okay. All right. I always like to ask one fun one. And I kind of kept thinking back to your Central America, South America kind of like touring piece. And I want to modernize it a little bit. So which cat do you think would have made the most out of that moment of turning it into like an influencer moment? So they would have been roaming around Central and South America, getting their TikToks. And so which one do you think would be best at doing that on tour?
Who would be best at being a TikTok influencer?
I think there's two choices here.
I think Jenny Anydots would do her best. I think she would really try.
Oh, interesting.
She would be doing it on like Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Or I think Mungo and Rump as well. They'd be good.
They'd be good. I had Bomb Ballerina and Tugger.
Yep. Yeah.
I could see the two of them. But Mungo and Rump and Victoria, I'm sure, would figure out. But I feel like those two would be finding the beaches wherever they could.
Yeah.
And
Mungo and Rump would be Rump would
yeah.
be highlighting all the nightlife. For sure.
Yeah, sneaking out of your hotel.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Most important question. So I've argued at length that I don't think Grizabella is the right Jellicle choice. So I want to hear, Lucy, not Jellylorum, Lucy, who are you picking as your Jellicle choice?
Well, there's two ways it can go. If Grizz doesn't show up, it's Gus. It has to be. Right? He's ancient. He's lived his life. He's gone through everything. He's fulfilled every expectation placed on him and he's not going to make it to another one. So Gus, I think, is the obvious choice. With Grizz showing up, with Doot being there, with all of the interruptions and challenges and McCavity and everything there, the way that every cat on that stage has been changed by that evening, I think it is Grizabella is the only for me, Lucy. That is the choice.
Is there a world where she doesn't come? Like I never considered that an option.
I think if Doot didn't show up, she wouldn't show up. Or if Doot didn't show up, she'd show up once, be chased off, and wouldn't come back.
Does he not show up every year, though?
I don't think so.
Okay, so he's not doing this every year. It's in that the off years that he's not there is Monk.
Yeah, I think he's the one who is in charge 98% of the time. He's the cat that, makes sure all of the he's running the Google Note and the Google Doodle and has everybody's calendar synced and makes sure that everybody's responded and has sent out, all the lists of vendors to supply, and he's the stage. He's the front man. He's the one who is giving the TED Talk and has organized the convention at the same time. Like, that is Monk 98% of the time. Because everybody is shocked and surprised and elated when Doot shows up. When the moment that, I believe it's Mistopheles says Old Deuteronomy, when the magic cats have kind of sensed a change in the air, we all can't believe it. You know, we don't know if it's true. We don't know if your eyes are deceiving you. You don't know who you are or where you're coming from. So to have him come to this important, special night is the catalyst that changes a lot of things. Because Grizabella's already showed up once and we all said, get the heck out of here. We've chased her off and said, no, we're not doing any, Remark the cat, we're not doing any of this. We want you gone. We don't care who you are or you left us, you're gone. But she keeps coming back because she knows Doot's there, I think. She keeps trying because for her there is no other chance. And Doot is the one that makes that possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I that makes sense. I never thought about her not coming back because I just assumed that she's part of this evening that we're getting no matter what. And I guess I've always just taken for granted that Doot's there and he's not, could possibly not have been there or isn't there every year. And so that's kind of where that all makes sense. And that's where it's like, she has to be chosen. But I do wonder, like, my argument, and I've said this on almost every episode for probably the last 100, why can't she just stay next year and be next year's choice?
I think in the same way that there's not a next year for Gus, I don't think there's a next year for Grizabella. She's been through it. Even her coming back and singing Memory, she falls to the ground and she is done. If Lil Syllabub doesn't start singing, you know, Sunlight through the dawn is breaking, she wouldn't get back up. She would be done. That would be it. Mm-hmm. She's giving every last ounce of what she has left to plead her case in the one chance she's been given. So I don't think there is a next year for Grizabella.
Okay. So what about this particular scenario? Because now I'm thinking about it from a different angle. What if she doesn't come back? Does old Doot come this year for Gus, or is he out?
I don't think Doot shows up because he knows Grizabella's been sniffing around. I think he shows up because he is ethereal spirit of the tribe who kind of comes and goes on his own timetable.
Okay. So these are
I think they're unrelated. I think Doot's appearance is unrelated to Grizabella's reappearance, if that makes sense.
But she doesn't actually come back a second time or third and
if
or
Doot's
fourth,
not
whatever.
There. That's what I
think. If he's not there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Lots to think about. Always something. Always different experiences. You haven't changed my mind, but I do respect the opinion and the thought. And it is, I always do forget that old Doot's not always there. Cause I just take for granted that it's like I kind of jokingly feel he's a serial killer. That's like every year he comes back and
axes somebody.
One night a year, every year.
It's also interesting though, doing the show for so long, it's very easy to take for granted the fact that Doot shows up every day. As you know, you're doing the show 8 times a week for however long, whether it's a 1-month stint on a regional gig or a year on tour, or, you know, how long did Jacob do Broadway? Like 8 years. And then some. Yeah. And it's easy for those magical things that affect the story that we are telling, because it can be taken as pretty thin on the ground. It's easy to take those things for granted, and the audience misses out. The ones who are consuming the story miss out on the wonder and the details if we miss out on those things.
For sure. Yeah, because it's so thin. Like you said, it's not told. It's not spoken. It's kind of implied in a lot of places. So if you don't bring that energy and aspect to it, then there are going to be people that miss it. And some people are going to miss it anyways. But that's, I think the beauty of the show is that there's a whole, an incredible dance component that somebody can walk in and just watch the dancing and not even know the names of the cats and still be fine. someone could love the singing and hear all the different songs and walk out. I was still, for a good week after seeing a show the very first time, I sang my Jerry and Rumble teaser. That stuck in my head for at least a week. And then there's the story, and there is like a lot of extra, and there's a whole Wikipedia fan page of theories and stuff. And I'm now 160 plus episodes digging into those. And so it's like, there's a lot there that you can really enjoy and appreciate of this show in all kinds of different forms, which is probably why it's so successful.
I think it transcends language. It transcends, it doesn't matter where you are on your life journey. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, how you love, whatever. There's something in there for everybody. And I think that kind of even harkens back to what I said before about the show gets under your skin, and it's really hard to walk away from that.
Yeah. Wow. This has been super fun. How can people stay in touch with you on social media and keep up with everything you're working on?
All my socials are at LF Horton. So at L for Lucy, F for Francis, and my last name Horton, Horton, like the elephant. And that's me on all the socials. Yeah.
All right. We will link that. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience. It was awesome. Thank you. And thanks everyone else for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or also listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Wrong Cat Died, or check our website, thewrongcatdied.com.